Well, hello to all our loyal listeners and our not so loyal listeners. We love you all. We are the Cinema Joes. I am Justin. I am joined here with my two buddies, Noah and Casey. And we also have a
Hello.
special guest today, and her name is Hannah. And
Hi.
she will actually be jumpstarting our discussion of a film you may have heard of. It came out here this year. I believe it was released elsewhere last year. The name of the film is Under the Skin, starring Scarlett Johansson, and this is I guess you'd say a science fiction film of some kind about this. I guess we can probably say alien, or at least some kind of non-human entity, who basically takes to seducing young men and harvesting their organs for some unknown purpose. Harvest I guess, their insides, really.
It's everything.
Yeah, it's
everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we'll just throw up the giant spoiler warning here. And
Spoiler alert: the alien memes are true.
Yeah. So I guess I'll hand it off to Hannah, who will start our discussion. Where we're going.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me so much. This is truly an honor to be here amongst the Cinema Joes as a,
Honorary Joe.
honorary Joe.
Joette.
Joette. So, I have now seen this film 2 times, and one of the things that really interested me, as will echo this. I was interested in the gaze, and specifically, there's a kind of theme in this movie about eyes and looking at people when maybe they don't realize you're looking at them. Mm-hmm. And because this is a horror movie, it kind of operates in this, weird fear and desire blob of just interesting, spine-tingling awesomeness, or not awesomeness, depending on what people thought. So I guess I want to get the ball rolling, specifically by asking you guys, there are a lot of scenes where Scarlett Johansson, I don't know what you guys want to call her, the alien?
I've seen her referred
Let's call
to
her Scarlett
in a lot of reviews. But I think that might be from the book.
I prefer the term her.
Her. Okay, we see her driving around in this big van.
It is a pedophile van. Oh God, is it a pedophile van?
And I guess I want to ask you guys, in what instances you were afraid of her, and in what instances were you afraid for her?
I think I'll say something first, because I'm pretty sure I know what at least one of Justin's answers will be. But what it's interesting to see is you get all these montages through the film of just seeing people going about their daily lives. There are a lot of moments in the film like that: people shopping, people walking across the streets, going places, leaving places, whatever. And I feel that that is meant to convey our world through her eyes. We're seeing humanity as she does. That's my interpretation. It's not just there for visual filler. We're seeing the bustle of human activity from this very detached perspective, which is how she views us, or at least in the beginning, how it seems like she views us. And I think it does create this effect of when she's within the van, and at first when she's just watching people, you do feel more scared of her, because especially at the beginning, we don't know what she's doing. And that's the most unsettling part of any horror movie, I feel, when you're not entirely sure why someone is doing what they're doing. Obviously, we get something approaching a concrete answer later, which kind of makes it worse. But the first time where I really felt, the flip side of that, and the first time I really felt scared for her, was not just at the end, was one of the scenes where she was out, and I forget how far it is in the movie. She's out like in the middle of night, in the middle of nowhere, and a gang of guys just start pounding on the windows of the car. And it really comes out of nowhere. Like, you can tell she didn't see them coming, she did not know they were there.
But
And
you
she
can clearly
does not
tell
know
that
how to
she's
respond.
not. No, I got the completely different opinion for that scene. She was totally in control
Okay.
the entire time. She was like, okay, well, this is the humans again. I'll just drive away.
I will say
Um,
what that scene did for me was because the camera is inside the van, we hear the banging. It's like these kids just, we think it's going to be another pickup, right? Another rolling down the windows, let's get the men in and let's bring them to the dark ooze room of death.
Yeah, it starts off that way. It starts off that way, yeah.
Right, and then all of a sudden we are inside the car, and the walls are, there's sound, and the walls are shaking. It's only after, and we're kind of looking to her for direction. And this is where I echo Casey's point that, I was scared, but I could totally tell that she was only, flustered for a moment because of the loud sound.
There was a strange kind of fascinating she had because this was such a different kind of situation for her. Things were not going the way that they had always gone for her, and I think you see that throughout the film. So I agree. I think no, when you say that you were scared for her, I agree with you there. But I do think Casey, what you brought up, what you were saying is that she's not scared in that moment.
do you think part of the? I don't know. We never really understand. You guys mentioned she's harvesting organs. Is there any evidence for that? We just see people disintegrating in that liquid thing. We don't know. Maybe she's just cold-blooded murder.
That
It's
is
not.
weird.
It's disintegrating. Everything other than the skin, everything
Sure.
under the skin, is sucked out.
Sure, but
And then we see what looks like, it reminded me of one of those smelting lines in an ironworks factory where the molten iron flows down. I interpreted that to mean that is all of the insides mushed and together like sausage material.
Yeah, we actually don't know whether they're keeping the skin or keeping the organs.
Yeah, it is never shown or explained in any way what exactly they're doing and to what end. I read some reviews theorized that it's for food, that they're shipped back to their home planet for food.
that would
But
explain that
there's
cake
nothing-
scene too. The cake scene where she vomits up the cake, where she tries to eat some human food, and she just coughs it up.
I did not think of the connection between those two.
I didn't until you just said it.
Oh yeah, that cake scene I thought was really interesting because you get kind of this really super sexy shot that's a close up of her lips and the cake going between her lips and her lips closing
And most of us are like, damn, we want some cake.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just freezing on her lips, and then that's disrupted immediately when she starts making the most grotesque sound. I read that as a humor scene, but I could also see that as being if she's used to the taste of human insides. As far as I know, we don't taste like cake on the inside.
Right, exactly, and right. But one of the things I was going to ask, I think, we're talking about the scene where the people are banging on the van. Might she be kind of exploring humanity still? She's trying to see all types of facets of humanity, and when she sees all these people banging on the car, she just shrugs it off as some weird human behavior, some weird human ritual, and then I never for a second got the impression that she was truly scared. Startled maybe because of the loud sound, but not scared. Just like, oh, these humans are weird, man, and she just drove off. So, I mean, we don't know how long she's been on this planet. If she's from outer space, she could be some weird science construct gone wrong. I mean, it's so cryptic and open to interpretation.
And I think it might be useful to introduce the other character, which is the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who kind of, I have to admit, his outfit looked like the uniform for the Rhino aliens in Doctor Who. That was the first thing I thought of when he appeared.
Very nice. Do you guys want to explain what this character is, or what you thought this character was?
I thought he was her handler.
Yeah, basically the handler. And there seems to be a team of them. Because they send out a bunch of them to search for her towards the end.
I missed that there were multiple ones.
I fell asleep
just
before that scene, so I woke up and I see two people on the motorcycle, and I thought it was Scarlet on the other motorcycle. So I get there are a team of them then. Like, do we ever see their faces or?
No, but you see a brief shot of him like conversing or doing something or gathering with other people with motorbikes wearing the same uniform.
I want to see the script of this movie, and I want to see how many actual lines of dialogue there are. Like, is it like a 3-page script?
Oh my gosh, that oh, okay, yeah, no, totally. There's little to no dialogue, and I actually wrote down the dialogue that I found most interesting. And if we're ready to deviate from the motorcycle man, we're like, so
Sure.
like we're getting this impression that like she is being controlled by someone else.
Yeah, that's what I got.
It's physically male. Like there's a dude that is dictating how she's supposed to conduct her business.
Yeah, and he has a very masculine stance. Like, it's very
Right.
strong, and even the outfit even accentuates that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and riding a motorcycle at super high speeds. Like, yeah, that is a very masculine ideal. Just speeding down the highway on a motorbike.
And there's
Like-
also there's a scene where he's surveying her and walking around her in a circle, where she's
Right, like he approves
Right.
or
and he looks right into her eyes, and then he turns and walks out the door. I still don't know what to make of that, but I don't know why he's looking so intently at her. If it's like desire, if it's just business.
It could be testing. He could be, because we don't know what exactly the system is or how extensive it is. And like I said, there is a shot where we see him with other bikers that suggests a network, which again would strengthen the interpretation that some people have laid on the film of being an allegory for trafficking or for sexual slavery. But we don't know if there have been other instances where people or creatures, whoever in the position of Scarlett Johansson's character, have also kind of, so it could be a test on his part, like seeing if her eyes, if he can see the change in her eyes.
Right.
Which would tie into the theme of eyes and watching.
I'll tell you, I got from that scene that almost like he was an artist looking at his artwork and like saying, yeah, this is good. I like what we did here. It's flawless. I approve. That's what I took away from that scene. But it's so everything about this movie is so up to interpretation.
I think this is the way you got to talk about it then.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
And Casey, with you bringing that up, the idea of the artist and his masterpiece, I want to segue into the issue of desire and looking. Especially, we're gonna talk about the female body here. So get ready. But I want to attack it through the scene of the guy she picks up who has facial neurofibromatosis.
That was my favorite scene by far. I really enjoyed that exchange. Up until this scene, I thought the movie was very just flat and boring. And then they introduced this character and this exchange, and I really it upped it for me. I got interested again in it. I'm interested to see.
Something that I found interesting about that scene, and I found it interesting about the movie in general, is how, and this ties into the idea of gazing, how it looks at the human body. Because again, like we see Scarlett Johansson basically naked, but it's not like it looks like a naturally curved body. She's not like a rail thin supermodel or something like that.
Not airbrushed or anything.
No, it doesn't look airbrushed, which is something that I saw this movie with Stella was something that she commented on. Like, it didn't look like they had altered her in any way. Yeah, and also the guys, because we see several guys totally naked, which right there, highly unusual. It is still so highly unusual cinematically to see fully naked guys.
With erect penises.
Yeah, with erect penises. I mean, when Watchmen came out, everyone's like, "Oh, blue dog." It's rare for a film to be just so neutral about the male body. And also here, so we see several guys where it's just not even presented in like an erotic way. It's just, oh, look, there's some guys, they're naked. they're also very typical looking guys. They're not; these aren't Chris Hemsworths, or Chris Evans. These are regular dudes.
Speaking of, yeah, I'm still interested in this exchange between her and the guy she picks up.
Yeah.
And we could argue that this is kind of the switch, the turn in the film.
Mm-hmm.
After their exchange in the car and the subsequent letting this guy, she lets him go, right?
Yeah.
After looking at herself for a really long time in a mirror. But she says something in the car to him. When she pulls over the car, she says, "Do you want to look at me?" And then she says, "I noticed you looking at me before. I liked it."
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how this fits in, and I know Justin wants to speak, especially because he got dropped.
Speak to that, because I think you see that a lot in even conversations prior to this that she's had with these men, is she's almost saying things that she knows they want to hear. But I think what's interesting about that scene is I don't know if she fully understands what his condition might mean to other women, but I think she senses that he feels his perception of himself is not the same as the other guys that she's picked up. So I think when she says that, it's almost like her trying to attack this new conquest in a new way. And then I think what was also interesting is the fact that she points out his hands when she realizes that he doesn't seem one of the compliments about his face or his looks in general. And I don't think that's her. I don't know if her character realizes at that moment what a person like this is perceived as in our society, unfortunately. But I think she does sense there's something wrong, and she adjusts to that. She adapts to that. So she does sense that there is something wrong. But I think what's interesting, she doesn't fully know what might be "quote unquote" wrong in this situation.
That's interesting, and it's also, it could be that that's why he's able to reach her in a way that the other guys can't, because he is genuinely appreciative of the chance to be this close to a woman, whereas the other guys are just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get laid again, woohoo!" There is this actual genuine admiration for it and appreciation for her, and I think she senses that as well.
It's the difference between her being the conquest and the conqueror. I'm finding.
Yeah.
And I think what you pointed out is really perceptive, because what I found interesting the first time I watched this was that all the other guys, when they approach, they're in her apartment or building or whatever, they only have eyes for her. That's their only point of focus.
Mm-hmm.
The only one who looks around, which is really unsettling, because you think this is like some kind of space where there's some kind of spell on these people, and here he's the only one who seems to have broken spell, at least for a little bit.
There is one previous one
look at me.
Before he gets into the house, he's looking back. He's like, "This is a creepy house.
Yeah.
Do I really want to go in there?" There was one prior guy before the one we're talking about.
But I think that speaks to, again, his perception of himself, and what he thinks he's, I guess, deserving of, or what he thinks. He says and in that exchange when they're in the building, he says, "I'm dreaming," not like doesn't ask her. He just says, "I'm dreaming." As if to say, I have to be dreaming for this to be happening.
And she replies to that, "Yes, we are."
Did you catch the scene right before, right at the end of their interaction in the van, where he pinches his hand? I thought that was cool, because I'm like, why is he always checking to see if he's dreaming? That's so cute.
Yeah.
So that's great. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that line of dialogue.
And he's about to die.
Right.
But he doesn't die.
Speaking of cute, I really, really want to segue into the final half of this film, after she undergoes this kind of change of perception of herself and her image and the world, perhaps. But she meets this guy on the bus. I like to call him Mr. Prince Charming.
Yeah.
And then I really want to talk about the last scene in the woods. We can just skip to that if you guys think that'll be more interesting.
Yeah, let's skip right to the scene in the woods, and we can come back to the Prince Charming if we want to. By the way, one thing on the Prince Charming, I thought for at first it was the same guy as the handler coming to like track her down for failing to kill this dude, and then I'm like, why are they? Oh, it's a different dude. All right, we'll come back to him though. Let's go.
No, I was having a real problem keeping the men straight because they're all
so
like
Scottish.
they're all white. They're all like about the same age. They're pretty much
All
the
Scottish.
guy who stands out is the one with differing abilities than the other men.
There is the swimmer who was from the Czech Republic. I
Yeah.
believe.
That's true. There's one Czech guy.
A vacationer.
Right, but we don't. Anyhow,
But yeah.
the wood. So what first fascinated me about this scene was that when she comes to the woods and she's navigating through all this brush and bramble and everything, and a logger comes by her, and he essentially approaches her in a way that's very similar to how she approached the men in the beginning of the scene, asking her repeatedly if she was alone, being relatively genial and asking, telling her to enjoy the woods. And so I found that really fascinating that now I am genuinely afraid for her because she seems completely out of it. And there's a dude here, and suddenly we're not afraid for the dude, we're afraid for her. And I was wondering how you guys thought that change happened for you, if you felt similarly to how I felt, and where that shift was.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because Hannah, you mentioned the real paucity of dialogue in this movie, and then this guy shows up and like a torrent of just commentary starts coming out, and like, yeah, it was a really nice place to clear your head, just walk around, think, clear your head, see the woods, enjoy the trees. Like there's like all this dialogue like coming out of him at once, and you think to yourself, wow, this is a guy who barely interacts with human beings. It's not, I mean, obviously it is pretty clear that, okay, he is a human, he is not part of a similar network like she is. He's just one dude out in the woods who's clearly really, really lonely. And that seems to be, I think that seems to be the dividing line. He's lonely, but he's also aggressive. And that's what she has not yet encountered, because prior to that, she'd been interacting with Prince Charming, who was like impossibly decent in how he dealt with her.
You say impossibly, Noah, and that really...
No, I shouldn't say impossibly. I shouldn't say...
No, I think it's really important that you said that, because I think it says a lot about, one, how women fear men.
And how we, as a whole, tend to think about men.
Mm-hmm, and male aggression towards women, which is a huge issue right now.
Yeah.
I was really startled to see... We've encountered her as kind of this femme fatale. She has like the quintessential red lipstick and everything, and then we essentially see her violated and scared and alone in the woods. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to know, as made of that this creature that's been our access to the weird Scottish world is now being raped right in front of us.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with she's lost the power structure that's ensured her survival, really. In addition to not having the support of the motorcyclist, some kind of manager, cleanup crew, something like that. She's also lost the van, which she got rid of the van because she thought she'd be easier to track. She'd be on the road. Does that seem
maybe
right?
there was a tracker in it.
Lost that. Yeah, she's even lost that. She really has nothing.
Yeah.
And she just... What I thought was interesting, Hannah, you mentioned, and Noah, you mentioned as well, the logger talking to her, that initial conversation, which I thought was really interesting, because he would like start rambling, and then he would ask a very pointed question. You get the sense he's thinking about this at his home. He'll be like, oh yeah, trails, there's a lot of trails around, are you alone? He's definitely planning his moves, at least in an abstract fashion. And I guess, yeah, I think that her loss of some kind of pretty obviously male power structure has ensured that this can happen, because she has no recourse now.
Well, she's essentially exercised free will in letting this guy go. She's gone against protocol, and now
she knows it. She knows that she's screwed,
right? And she's rogue.
She's severed all ties with that move.
And she's also simply not equipped to deal with any actual threats outside of that power structure. Like we mentioned earlier, when the guys are banging on the car, I felt that she was scared of that scene. You guys disagreed and said no, she still seemed to control. She still had the van. She still had the power structure. She was just taken aback. Here, that really is gone. All that security really is gone. I mean, who knows? Maybe the car was like bomb and bulletproof to like ensure her safety. But that's all gone now. She truly is vulnerable. And again, as I said, her first instance after diving into that vulnerability is with a guy who treats her well, which in a way almost sets her up to not be. You could almost say that she's then more likely to not really think twice about the guy, offering her, hey, there's a cabin where you can go and sleep. And for her to not for a second maybe think like, okay, he's telling me about this, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So kind of, she's not only lost the male power structure, she is not like mentally equipped to handle actual threats from this world on her own.
And I want to especially bring up the point that because we have a female-bodied protagonist, essentially, that because she's female-bodied in this world where violence against the female body is accepted, is already in institutions, is acceptable, and considered normal, it normalizes violence against women. Making her alien to this world, she has not grown up with kind of the embodied practices women do to defend themselves against male violence.
We don't know if she actually is a female from wherever she comes from. She's simply in a female body.
All right, we're already running out of time, so let's give our closing thoughts to everyone. Let's start with Noah. What was your overall thought of the movie?
I really liked the movie. I mean, it was one of those movies where I did notice the running length more than I usually do by these kinds of films. But what I really like about it, I love the imagery, love the score, absolutely love the music that they had for this movie. Love the imagery, like the scene where you see her image overlaid on swaying pine trees, like gorgeous shots like that. Also the scene where she examines her nude body in like this infrared light, like a very deep red light. So a lot of interesting use of colors. And in terms of the film itself, I love it because it is so obtuse, it is so strange, it is so... And a lot of other reviewers pointed this out, like there is no like genre you can stick this into. And I love it for the fact that it can be endlessly interpreted and reinterpreted. And the images that it gives us are so striking. So I think this is a movie that will have a very long shelf life. People revisiting it, and people continuing to discuss it.
I don't want to say I didn't like this movie, but I didn't enjoy watching it. It might just be my personal tastes. It was too refined for my palate, like a good wine. It certainly isn't a movie you can just watch. It's a movie you have to watch and then discuss after, like we're doing now, or in a university setting, something like that.
You have to commit to watching it.
Yeah, you really do. And so if you're doing that, then you probably will get a lot more out of it than you would if you're just watching it on a weekend, taking your girlfriend to see the movie, something like that. So keep that in mind. Other than that, what did you think, Justin?
Well, especially having seen it again, I think it only increased my appreciation for this movie, and I really wish we could have like even more time to discuss. I feel like this would be this is on the level of like a Her kind of like the Her discussion that we had. And, I don't know what I could add other than it's probably one of the best movies I've seen of this year. I think it really is about what it means to be female bodied. I specifically emphasize body because that's what's going on here, and sort of the latent expectations and
desires.
That exist in our society, whether we're aware of it or not. What I think is interesting about this movie, you start to see where does that come from? What are the unsaid expectations, and what are the expectations that enable that kind of need? But this is a movie I think that rewards multiple viewings, and there's a lot going on in each, even it doesn't appear to be a lot of action necessarily.
There's a lot happening.
In that way, it reminded me a lot of well, pretty overtly reminded me of Kubrick, 2001 especially, even some of Paul Thomas Anderson's recent films, in that it just kind of gives you stuff and you're kind of left to interpret what's actually going on. I think that's very freeing cinematically. So anyway, I've rambled way too long.
Hannah, we'd love to hear what you thought.
Hannah?
Yeah.
I mean, on a very practical level, I recommend this movie, and if you're gonna watch it, you know, get a group of people together, turn off the lights, and watch it in the dark, because
Turn
you'll
off
be
the lights while under the skin.
both horrified, and just, you know, let your mind focus on the movie. And if you're one of those people that likes taking notes, like me, because I'm a nerd, take notes. You know, let loose, take some notes. I think especially if you're male-bodied, you will, especially, it will give you a little bit of insight as to how women move through a lot of spaces in this world fearfully. I think it will give you that, and I think that's valuable, so that we can enact some practical change. I'm very activist, so that's shining through right now. But yeah, it's beautiful, and if you can get your brain hooked in for the length of the movie, I highly recommend it.
The hour and a half. I have to agree. Noah, it felt much longer than an hour and a half. But you have to, like Hannah's saying, you have to have your brain plugged in when you're watching it. I don't think I did. That was my problem.
Here's the thing, and I factored this in when I wrote my review of the movie, because I was really torn. Should I give it 4 out of 4 or 3.5 out of 4 stars? Because the only thing that bothered me was that I did notice the length, but I saw it at the end of a very long day at work.
Yeah.
So it's not a film to watch when you are tired or you're distracted by something. Because it is like a Kubrick film or like a Paul Thomas Anderson film. It's not so much about the story and rather about all the moving parts and how they're combined. So you really do have to pay attention to those details.
And very subtle things with the camera and with the... check the movie out for yourself and let us know what you think. We are the Cinema Joes. Thanks again to our special guest, Hannah. We hope to see you around again in the future. And follow us on Facebook. Check out our website. Have a good one, everybody.